yesterday's presidential inauguration brought along both cheers and jeers. Protesters packed the protest site along Pennsylvania Avenue to greet President Bush with boos, signs proclaiming the worst president ever. Police say at least 10 people were arrested during the ceremonies. They even threw a snowball at the vice president's car. But were they effective? Joining us now from Washington is one of the organizers of yesterday's protest from the guerrilla poetry insurgency.
That's right.
Shahid Buttar. And also joining us, the editor of National Review, is Fox News contributor Rich Lowry is with us. All right, Shahid, let me ask you a question. You know, when you yell racist, sexist, anti-gay, Bush and Cheney, go away,
yeah,
explain to the audience, besides making yourselves look silly, what does that do?
Well, you may pick a better example. So, for instance, the chant I tend to prefer is healthcare, not warfare.
Yeah, but
or
he's
education,
not my president. Okay.
Or education, not occupation. Ideas that actually get memes across and thoughts
but
across.
The ones I heard the most of, he's not
people.
My president, racist, sexist, anti-gay, etc. I mean, it's sort of the same thing, but I mean, it goes on, and the chanting goes on and on for hours. I'm asking, what impact do you think you're having by doing that?
Well, let's break it down. There are several constituencies upon which an action might have an impact, and two that I think are often ignored would be the future historical record, laying a foundation for what America actually thought about the swing in current events today and this president's agenda, and then second, the international community, and really demonstrating to peoples abroad that Americans, as a people, can remain good in spite of whatever acts our administration
Hey, listen, I think it shows the world that we'll allow anybody to speak, no matter how silly they look.
And that's one thing in which we can all find common ground, I think.
What is the guerrilla protest, oh, I'm sorry, poetry insurgency?
Poetry insurgency, yeah. We're hip-hop MCs and spoken word artists and drummers, and we convey our ideas in music. We're musicians committed to peace and justice, and we express that conviction musically.
What about the D.C. anarchist resistance? And there was some people that got out of trouble. There was some people that had to be pepper sprayed.
Yeah.
Their goal going...
There were also a lot of people who didn't need to be pepper sprayed who were pepper sprayed.
Well, then your view. But they wanted to, and they said before this whole thing started, they said there's nothing left to salvage in this empire. That is the U.S. government. It's time to bring the government down. This January 20th, let's bring anarchy to the streets of D.C., make resistance visible. Do you support the call for violence like that?
Well, let me just aggregate that first. I don't think there is a call for violence in that statement, but even if there were, I would not support it. I do work as an organizer with people with a variety of tactics and convictions.
Well, wait a minute, but let me just correct one thing. This is important. They say there's nothing left to salvage in the empire, that is the U.S. government. It's time to bring it down. Bring anarchy to the streets of D.C.
You may be mischaracterizing.
That is a call for violence, and if you want to be a peaceful protester, no, it really is.
It's not.
To bring it down means by force.
Anarchy means a lack of central control, and I think the idea behind the anarchist vision of the world, and I'll just put out there at the outset, it's not one I share, but the vision is that people will have come to a point culturally that we can regulate ourselves, that people won't abuse each other the way we have historically.
Shahid, it's Alan and Rich Lowry. Welcome back to our program.
Hi, Alan.
Let me get you in here, Rich.
Thanks
Look,
very much.
Protesters, people who oppose the Bush administration, and those who showed up in D.C. come in many different stripes. They don't all agree. The progressive movement is multifaceted. What's your issue with people protesting or speaking up or doing what happened in Washington yesterday?
Well, Alan, I don't have any problem with people speaking up as a general matter. I mean, that's what makes this country great. But the fact is, Alan, there was a lot of goonish behavior yesterday where you had some protesters, obviously not all, but some throwing rocks, hurling vulgarity and profanity at people who just showed up to attend the parade with their families. You had protesters deliberately trying to keep people from getting to the parade route so they could enjoy this great civic pageant. And I would think an honorable liberal such as yourself, Alan, would deplore that kind of activity.
Tactics, but here's the game that you play, which very effectively you do take the most extreme.
At least I play my games effectively,
you are very effective,
Alan.
Rich, absolutely,
that's a compliment.
as is Sean.
Thank you.
What you do is you take the most extreme behavior, you try to then paint that as these are the way these protesters behaved, when by and large it was 98% peaceful. It was 98% respectful. There were, you're right, a few incidents. That person should not have thrown something at the vice president's limousine, and some of the behavior you just remarked upon should not happen. But that is such a minute part of what happened in Washington.
No, well, Alan, well, first of all, let's be fair and accurate. I said some, not all. And look, Alan, read the Washington Post today, where Mayor Anthony Williams here in Washington, D.C., a liberal Democratic mayor, deplored a lot of what he saw from these protesters. He said it saddened him, it sickened him. We saw an American flag burned yesterday. And the fact is, Alan, some of these protesters, not all, but some of them represent the most vicious aspect of the anti-war left, who think this country is fundamentally corrupt, and whenever we try to help someone abroad, we are to blame, and we shouldn't bother.
Let's put it in perspective, Rich. What percentage of the protesters would you say fall into that category?
50.
I don't know, Alan. You would need to do a survey, but there's a lot of this sort of behavior. Again, Mayor Williams, who's not a conservative, he's not going to agree with Sean or agree with me. He tends to agree with you, but he saw that kind of behavior
was
that made
that's
him
what you
sick.
want to emphasize, because you want to make liberals look bad.
This day is supposed to be about both parties coming together and celebrating the peaceful transfer of power, which is the greatest thing about this country. And there's part of the left that just can't accept the idea. There's part of the left that just can't accept the idea that this president won re-election. And they'll never accept it.
There's part of the right that can't do it. When a Democrat gets elected, it's not just about the peaceful transfer of power, Shahid. It's also about the opportunities we have to exercise our rights of free speech, to talk about those things we hold dear, and it is indeed a celebration of our Constitution, including the First Amendment.
You're absolutely right, and I'd like to point out just the incongruity between a peaceful transition of power and an administration that is profoundly warlike, not only in its approach to foreign policy, but also in its approach to the earth, its approach to the poor, its approach to civil rights. There is a war going on to all these things.
We'll take a break. We'll continue on the other side.